Hi, this is Mr. Miller, and in this video, we're going to go through the solutions to the practice mastery quiz for the binomial model. Here we go. The first three questions deal with NCR, in choose R. The first question says, a yearbook editor is selecting 3 senior quotes to feature on a special page from a list of 15 submitted quotes. The order of the quotes doesn't matter. Use your calculator to find how many different sets of 3 quotes can be chosen. Well, we have 15 quotes and we're choosing 3. So the number of ways we can do that is simply 15 choose 3. And if you enter that in your calculator, you'll find that there are 455 ways to do that. It says, what does the result mean in this situation? It means that there are 455 ways to select 3 quotes from 15 quotes. All right, and the next one. In a high school raffle, 8 students will be selected to win a prize out of a total of 30 who are entered. All the prizes are the same, and the winners are chosen randomly at the same time with no specific order. How many different groups of 8 students could be selected from 30 entrants? All right, so we have 30 students. We're picking 8. This is simply 30 choose 8. That's how many groups of 8 we can pick. And if you do that on your calculator, you'll find that the answer is A, that one. Okay. Number 3 says 2 school clubs are each holding a raffle. Club A will randomly select 4 students from a group of 20 entrants, and they're going to receive identical prizes. In Club B, 6 students are chosen from a group of 25 who will also receive identical prizes. In both cases, the order in which the students are selected does not matter. Which club has more possible ways to select its group of winners? Okay, so each club is picking 4 students or 5 students, and it doesn't matter what order they're picked. So for Club A, the number of ways we can do this is 20, choose 4. And that ends up being 4,845. That's how many different ways they can pick the 4 winners. For Club B, the number of ways they can pick 6 from 25 is 25, choose 6. And that ends up being 177,100. So clearly, Club B has more possible ways to pick its winners than Club A. So the answer to this one is Club B. Okay. In the next problem, it says a school cafeteria reports that 70% of students typically choose the hot lunch option. On a particular day, a random group of 25 students is observed. Let X represent the number of students in this group who choose the hot lunch. So in this problem, N is equal to 25. P is equal to 0.7, and Q is equal to 1 minus that, which is 0.30. So it says calculate the probability that X equals 18. That is, 18 of the students choose the hot lunch. Well, we have to show our work, so we're going to use the formula for this. So this would be 25 choose 18 times 0.7 to the 18 and 0.3 to the 7. That ends up being about 0.17. Part B says calculate the probability that X equals 20. So that'd be 25 choose 20 times 0.7 to the 20th times 0.30 to the 5th. Okay, 20 students choose the lunch, 5 do not, and that ends up being about 0.10, about 10% chance. What is the expected number of students who choose a hot lunch? Well, we're going to use the formula for the expected value. For a binomial model, the expected value or the expected number of successes is n times p. So this is going to be 25 times 0.7, which equals 17.5. That's how many students we expect to eat it on average. And the standard deviation equals square root of n times p times q, which would be the square root of 25 times 0.7 times 0.3. And in this case, it ends up being 2.29. Okay. Problem 5 involves a binomial model also, but this time we're going to use technology. So it says a quality control inspector knows that 5% of light bulbs from a factory are defective. She randomly selects a box of 40 bulbs and tests them. Let X represent the number of defective bulbs in the sample. So for this problem, N is equal to 40. We're selecting 40 bulbs. The probability of getting a defective one is 0.05. And that's what we need to use the website. So it says, what's the probability that exactly 3 bulbs are defective? Well, we're going to switch. We're going to use the website where the QR code is, and it looks like this. So in this case, N is equal to 40. P is equal to 0.05. And we want exactly 3 successes. And we want probably X equals 3, and this is equal to 0.18511. The second one wants us to calculate the probability that 2 or fewer bulbs are defective. So we're going to change this to 2. 2 or fewer means less than or equal to 2. And we end up getting 0.67. All right. And the last one says, what's the probability that 4 or more bulbs? So we can switch this to greater than or equal to X. We're going to switch this to 4. And we see that the probability of 4 or more bulbs is 0.14. The graph also highlights the ones we're talking about. So these in the pink here are the ones that are 4 or more. So going back to the quiz, we can record the answers here from the website. The probability that exactly 3 bulbs were defective was 0.185. The probability that 2 or fewer bulbs were defective, that ended up being about 0.68. And the probability that 4 or more are defective is 0.14 approximately. Okay, let's move on to the very last question here. So in the very last question, this has to do with the sample proportion. A recent study shows that 22% of adults in a city prefer biking as their primary form of transportation for short trips. A researcher randomly selects 160 adults in the city. So our sample size is 160, that's N. And the true proportion is 0.22. Okay, so it says what are the mean and standard deviation of p hat? So we randomly select 160 adults from the city and find the proportion that like biking. So we would expect the average of our sample to equal the true proportion. And we would expect the standard deviation of our sample to equal what we get when we use this formula. The square root of 0.22 times 1 minus 0.22 divided by n, which is 160. And you get about 0.0327 for that. Okay, sketch the distribution of p hat. Well, p hat's going to have a normal distribution, and the mean is 0.22. So when we collect samples, our sample is going to be centered around the true value of 0.22, and the standard deviation is 0.0327. Okay, all right. So we have two calculations to make. This is going to bring back some memories. We're going to use the standard normal calculator. So when we do this, let's see here. The mean is 0.22. The standard deviation is 0.0327. And for the first problem, we want above 0.25. Okay, so the probability that our sample is above 2.5, we can see right here it's 0.18 approximately. And then for the second part, we want between two values. What's the probability of proportions between 0.20 and 0.25? Well, that ends up being about 0.55. There's about a 55% chance our sample proportion will be in between 20% and 25%. So let's record those answers here. Here we go. This one ended up being about 0.18, and this one ended up being about 0.55. And that's the practice mastery quiz. Okay, good luck on it.